All right, let's dive into the cardiovascular system. If you're a med student, you already know this is one of the biggest, most important topics you're going to face. So in this explainer, we're going to build a really solid foundation of cardiovascular physiology. We'll break down all those high-yield concepts that you absolutely need to know, not just to ace your exams, but to really get how this amazing system keeps us all going. So here's our roadmap. First, we'll hit the fundamentals, what the system is actually for. Then, we'll follow the blood on its two-circuit journey. From there, we'll zoom right into the cardiac cycle, listen to the heart's electrical symphony, and check out how our body regulates flow. And finally, we'll pull it all together. Ready? Let's get into it. Okay, so at its core, and yeah, the pun is definitely intended, the cardiovascular system is basically the body's ultimate delivery service. It's this nonstop transport network, rushing oxygen and nutrients to every single cell, and at the same time, hauling away waste products like carbon dioxide. This constant give and take is what maintains homeostasis, that perfect balance that keeps us alive. Now, this whole delivery service really has three key parts. First up, you've got the heart, which is just this incredible four-chambered pump that never quits. Then you have the blood vessels, this massive network of highways and tiny side streets. And finally, you've got the blood itself, the actual fluid carrying the goods. They're all amazing on their own, but it's how they work together that's pure genius. So let's actually trace the path of the blood through this network. See, the heart isn't just one simple pump. It's a super smart double pump. It's powering two totally separate circuits at the exact same time. And honestly, if you can get your head around this dual circuit design, you're well on your way to understanding the whole system. Here's the big difference. The right side of the heart is all about the pulmonary circuit. Think of this as a quick, low-pressure trip to the lungs just to pick up oxygen. The left side of the heart, that runs the systemic circuit. This is the high-pressure, long-haul journey to deliver that fresh, oxygenated blood to literally everywhere else in the body. Okay, so let's follow a drop of blood. Deoxygenated blood, back from its trip around the body, flows into the right atrium and then down to the right ventricle. With one pump, the right ventricle sends it out through the pulmonary artery. And quick fact, that's the only artery carrying deoxygenated blood. In the lungs, it drops off CO2 and picks up O2, and this brand new oxygen-rich blood heads back to the heart's left atrium. And that kicks off the second half of the journey, the big one. From the left atrium, that oxygenated blood fills the left ventricle, which is the powerhouse of the heart. With a really powerful squeeze, that blood gets blasted into the aorta, the body's main artery, and sent out to the entire body. After it makes its deliveries, the now deoxygenated blood cruises back to the right atrium, and the whole cycle just starts all over again. So we've seen where the blood goes, but what's actually driving it? Well, it's the cardiac cycle. It's this perfectly timed sequence of events that makes up just one single heartbeat. Let's zoom in and see what's happening in that split seconds. You know, this really shows how the mechanics of the heart make the sounds we hear. A whole cardiac cycle takes less than a second. It starts with diastole. That's when the ventricles relax and fill up with blood. Then comes systole, the contraction. As the ventricles squeeze, the AV valves slam shut, and that's the first heart sound, S1. That's your lub. Then, after the blood is pushed out, the semilunar valves close, and that makes the second sound, S2, the dub. Lub-dub, lub-dub. Now, to really know how well the heart is working, we gotta talk about volumes. End diastolic volume, or EDV, is how much blood is in the ventricle right before it pumps. Think of it as a full tank. End systolic volume, ESV, is whatever's left over after the pump. So the difference between them, that's your stroke volume, the amount of blood that actually got pushed out with that beat, which is usually around 70 milliliters when you're just chillin'. And that brings us to maybe the most important equation in all of cardiophysiology. Cardiac output equals heart rate times stroke volume. So cardiac output is just the total amount of blood your heart pumps out every minute. At rest, it's about 5 liters a minute, which is crazy, right? That means your entire blood volume is circulating through your body every 60 seconds. And if you're an athlete going all out, that number can jump to over 20 liters a minute. So what's the spark that actually starts each heartbeat? Well, it's not a direct phone call from the brain. The heart has its own incredible electrical system, this whole network of special cells that create and send electrical signals, making a perfectly timed symphony of contraction. It's pretty amazing. So the whole symphony starts at the SA node. That's the heart's natural pacemaker. The signal spreads across the atria, telling them to contract. Then it hits the AV node. And here's the cool part. There's a tiny, crucial delay.
This little pause gives the ventricles just enough time to fill up completely before they're told to pump. From there, the signal zips down the bundle of His, through the bundle branches, and out to the Purkinje fibers, which triggers this powerful, coordinated squeeze of the ventricles from the bottom up. Just brilliant.
So the heart's own electrical system is amazing, for sure, but it doesn't just do its own thing. I mean, the body's needs are always changing, right? You go from sitting on the couch to sprinting for the bus. To handle that, the cardiovascular system is constantly being fine-tuned by a really sophisticated control panel.
And the main controller here is the autonomic nervous system. The easiest way to think about it is this. The sympathetic system is your fight or flight response. It's the gas pedal. It ramps up your heart rate and makes each beat stronger. Then you have the parasympathetic system, which is your rest and digest. That's the brake pedal. It's in charge when you're resting, keeping your heart rate nice and steady.
All right, let's nail down 3 concepts that are super high yield for exams. First is preload. Just think of stretching a rubber band. Preload is how much the heart muscle is stretched right at the end of filling. And the Frank-Starling law just says that the more you stretch it, the more forcefully it's going to contract, just like that rubber band snapping back. So basically, more blood in means more blood out.
Okay, next up is afterload. If preload is the stretch, afterload is the resistance. It's the pressure the ventricle has to work against to get the blood out into the aorta. You can picture it like trying to push open a really heavy door. If you have high blood pressure, that door is heavier, which means the heart has to work a lot harder every single beat.
And finally, there's contractility, which also goes by inotropy. This is just the raw, built-in power of the heart muscle. It has nothing to do with how much it's stretched or the resistance it's facing. It's just about how hard can that muscle squeeze on its own. And this is what your sympathetic nervous system, that gas pedal, directly boosts to make each pump more powerful.
Wow, okay, we've looked at the pump, the plumbing, the electrical wiring, and all the controls. So now let's put all these pieces of the puzzle together and see how this incredible system keeps everything in perfect balance, making sure every cell in your body gets exactly what it needs.
And that leads us to our final big equation. Blood pressure equals cardiac output times total peripheral resistance. Your blood pressure is basically a product of how much blood the heart is pumping out and how much resistance that blood is meeting in the vessels. Your body is constantly, second by second, tweaking both of those factors to keep your blood pressure stable and make sure all your vital organs are getting enough blood flow.
So let's wrap up with a little thought experiment to tie this all together. When you exercise, your muscles are screaming for more blood, right? So how does the body manipulate preload, afterload, and contractility to jack up your cardiac output to meet that demand? Thinking through that question is a fantastic way to really make sure you've got this stuff down. Once you grasp these dynamic relationships, you are well on your way to mastering cardiovascular physiology.